All right, this is episode 56 of the Cafe Racer podcast. I'm Crash.
And I'm Steven.
All right, so it's been a little bit since we've had a show. Been really busy, both of us. How's it going?
It's going good. I had culture shock coming back to work though.
Yeah, I didn't want to come back either, and I wasn't gone nearly as long as you.
And I didn't shave, and when I got back, everyone was kind of shocked because no one's ever seen me with facial hair before because I
Hmm.
really can't grow it, you know.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
And one of the girls in the office, she was like, "Are you gonna wash your face?" Like, I
Yeah,
shaved it off the second day. It was really starting to bother me too.
when I got by the time I got home, I think it had been a week and a half since I had shaved at all. Um,
Right.
and I grow facial hair about as good as you do, so it was just like it was thin and patchy, but it was like itchy because it was starting to get long
Yeah.
enough that it was curling back in.
This is making
Uh,
me crazy. The
yeah.
funny thing was, I don't know if you saw that picture. When I got to like the middle of Arkansas,
Hmm.
I got a call from Mike Kaiser, and they were catching up to me, and they left the day after I did, him and
Yeah, those
Charlie.
guys were moving.
Yeah, they did like 930 miles the day that they went home from Colorado back to Asheville.
Hmm.
So, I kind of timed it. I said, look, I'll wait for you guys in Memphis. We'll stop at a restaurant. And we stopped at some place that Alton Brown had showcased on Feasting on Asphalt, the show that he
Hmm.
did in 2006, a motorcycle show, which they're now replaying all those episodes. My wife had kind of contacted me and said, hey, if you're going to go through there, there's a really good barbecue place. So those guys caught up with me, and we hung out for a while, and Michael took pictures of all of our faces and posted it on his page. He had the best adventure beard.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I don't know how long it had been since any of them had shaved.
I don't think
Um,
they shaved at all.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. They
it was
just
hard.
like I've got some friends who in that same amount of time would have like a full,
Yeah.
like majestic Yeti face.
That's my nephew. The kid grows a beard overnight.
Yeah.
But
I,
it was lucky we even could take a shower when we were there.
yeah, that's true.
2 showers for like 7,000 people. So
Yeah, it was pretty packed. It was a good show though. Really good trip. I
if
gotta
you,
say, for me, the ride out to Expo was a lot better than the ride home, but that was because I chose a crappy route on the ride home.
yeah, I did two different rides. If you want, I can like do a quick synopsis and
Yeah,
recap
yeah,
of
go
mine
for it.
because it was kind of long. So I left on Mother's Day, and that was a short ride, like 4 hours to Gainesville. Spent the day with my mom, and then Monday, the Monday before the expo, that was a long day, 640 miles. I ended up in Lafayette, Louisiana. It was really, uneventful, pretty much I-75, I-10, the whole way there. The next day, Tuesday, was a really bad rain day. And I started to notice I was having some problems with the bike with some vibrations when I left Gainesville in the lower pegs
Hmm.
and just not getting good fuel mileage. It was working really weird, and I started making some calls to known Moto Guzzi dealers on the way up there, and I had called one in Baton Rouge, and the guys were real honest, and they said, look, our tech's not here, we don't really know how to use the software, and they ended up recommending a place that I had on my list, which was MPH Cycles, MPH
Hmm.
Cycles in Houston. I got to give a shout out to Larry, the tech there. He's a guy from the ADV site, and really, MPH Cycles is a car repair place. It's a BMW car
Really?
shop. Yeah, they have a Moto Guzzi dealership there, and really, the car service place pays for them to have that, and they can take bikes right away. And they did. They took me right away, got me on a rack, and Larry went through that bike completely and ended up finding an exhaust gasket that was leaking near an O2 sensor. So it did end up being a fuel delivery issue, just more because of an exhaust leak.
Yeah.
He checked my valve clearance, which I had done right before the trip, went through the fuel mapping, everything, buttoned it all up. I was there for 3 hours, which really, thinking about it, is not a long time, especially since he had to let the bike cool down to check the valves, and covered the thing under warranty. So I got to
Hmm.
thank Thank you, Larry. Thank you guys from MPH Cycles. That was pretty painless and pretty quick. And I
Yeah.
got to dry out because the rain was really bad. So that day ended in Lano, Texas, with some phenomenal pit barbecue. I posted some pictures on our site.
Yeah, I saw that. I was pretty jealous.
Yeah, that was really good. And then the next day, that what's amazing about Texas is the variation of roads. I went through Lano's kind of where Texas Hill Country is. That was really pretty. The only bad part about it was raining. The next morning, I got up and had an incredibly epic ride through Texas, northwestern Texas, up through these small towns, through different types of scenery. Saw big giant wind turbines,
Mm-hmm.
petroleum field pumps, cotton fields, and then ended up having lunch in Roswell, which was kind of disappointing. It's a little bit of a tourist trap. I think I probably knew that going in. Just I was expecting something more. And ended up in Socorro, New Mexico. Had a really nice dinner there that night, in like kind of a family diner, 1970s feel, but it was Mexican food. It was really good. The next morning, I left there and started heading through New Mexico, and now you get these amazing scenery changes. I stopped in Magdalena at the Magdalena Cafe, had a really nice breakfast in a little tiny old town that had the old town feel. There was like a marshal's office with bars on the windows across from the cafe. The
Yeah.
marshal's in there having breakfast with his cronies. Went to the VLA, the Very Large Array at the National Radio Astronomy Observatory, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Saw the VLA. Then from there, I kept going west and ended up through New Mexico into Arizona. Stopped in Payson for fuel, and hooked up with a couple guys that we were camping near. That was George, Charlie, and Mark.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
saw these guys on ADV bikes, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Maybe I'll follow them in, because I really wasn't sure how to get there and was getting gas. And George walked over and he goes, "You going to the Overland Expo?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Can we follow you?" I'm like, "I was hoping to follow you guys." So we kind of checked the map and confirmed the route, and we followed George in, and I was behind Mark, who was behind George, and then uh, or Jimmy was behind me. And man, I'll tell you what, it was a great ride, like 55 to 75 miles through the twisties, miles an hour through the twisties, just wonderful. And come to find out that George is a pretty new rider. He
Yeah.
only had that bike for a few months, and it was good. Never touched the brakes. We had a great ride. And then hung out and waited for you guys to get there.
Yeah. We
Um,
we we had a little bit of difficulty setting off. Thanks, to Bonneville. I rode out with Christy Farrell from the Motorific podcast, and she lives up in LA. I live in San Diego, so she came down and spent the night at my house. Had dinner with me and my wife and my kid and all that sort of stuff the night before. And then we left the next morning, and I had the bike all loaded up the night before. We get out there, start the bikes up, leave, everything's fine, but we both needed gas. So we pull into this 7-Eleven that's right down the street from my house, and uh, I fill up my tank, and I was like, oh, I need to get my GPS paired up with my phone so that I can, or paired up with my Bluetooth headset so I can hear it give me directions. So I sat there for a minute trying to get it to work, and then I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll deal with it later. I'll just look at the screen every now and then and follow the directions because I didn't want to waste any more time. And I went to start the bike, and nothing happened. It was like, ka-chunk, and that was it. Just
Not even the clicking, just like that was it. One.
yeah, just the Bonneville. It kind of has this like it's built into the ECU where if the voltage of the battery gets below a certain level, it won't allow it to start.
Mhm.
I don't understand the point of that. I don't know what good that does. Um, because it could start on that many volts. It's like below 12 and a half volts or something like weird. It's way higher than it should be. Because it really could start on that much voltage. There's guys that have mentioned basically you jumper the starter solenoid terminals so that um, it starts anyway. And I probably could have done that, but instead because I didn't want to like break out tools and get everything off the bike, I took off my jacket and my helmet and I like ran across the parking lot and bump started it.
Did you ever figure out what caused that?
My guess is that the battery on the bike has always been really picky. It's like basically right on the edge of being dead all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The charging system works fine. I've checked all that sort of stuff out. Uh, and as evidenced by the fact that the bike started just fine the entire rest of the trip. It charged the battery right back up. But yeah, only thing I can guess is that just having the GPS plugged in, because it's got power as long as it's plugged into the bike. Like it's not switched, so it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
come on with the ignition. Um, my only guess is that this leaving it sit there for that long was just enough to get the battery just below the level where the ECU won't let it start. Um, and yeah, um, got we it kind of became a running joke every time we'd stop for anything, for gas, for food, whatever. I'd get on the bike and I'd start it, and Christy would be like, "Yay!" She'd throw her hands up, like, "You didn't have to pump start it."
And so your bike didn't start on the way out there, and my bike didn't start when I went to leave.
Yeah,
Remember?
exactly.
Yeah. And that was
Um,
certainly the GPS because of somehow or another I had the cover over it,
hmm
and it got flipped on and just killed the battery. But luckily, one of the guys out there had a pair of jumper cables, and we could hook it to your bike, and
Yeah,
took a second and cranked it over, and no problem, no problem the rest of the trip. The GPS crapped out on me though.
did it?
About Yeah, just and I haven't troubleshot it yet. I was going to bring it in and hook it up to those older Garmin GPSs. The Street Pilot series actually have an AC adapter that you got to plug in to
Hmm.
the wall to get it to work. But and I haven't run a set of power a voltmeter on the leads on the bike yet to see where the short is. But it flickered a couple times and it quit working altogether. I checked the fuse, I checked the connections, they all look good. I put some dielectric grease because it was starting to get a little wonky, maybe a little bit of rust on the connections, but I cleaned it and nothing. And
Hmm.
to be honest with you, the only good thing about that GPS unit is the fact that when you lose a phone signal, you still have a GPS because the XM nav traffic and nav weather were not accurate usually, where
Yeah.
Waze was more accurate when it came to traffic and like things like that. The only good thing about it is it'll route you. So where I had issues going into Memphis on I-40, there was a lot of construction. It alerted me of that and gave me a route around it. But that being said, the route that it gave me would have taken me into closer into Memphis
hmm
before I got off, and then hit 70. And what I ended up doing was seeing that traffic was stopping, so I got off earlier and then bypassed it all. But it was just a little bit frustrating because of the fact that I lost power on it again. The first one I did the same problem, and the other issue is the power plugs that Garmin gives you that they sell for direct connect to the battery terminal.
hmm
The wires are tiny
Yeah.
inside.
Yeah, they're
It,
super small.
it's ridiculous. Just that fact alone probably means that they're breaking from vibration inside the housing. And I had actually soldered larger wires on them to get to the terminals, and then put heat shrink on it, siliconed it so it was a nice beefy connection where I soldered it. And yeah, it probably failed in there somewhere, but you have
Yeah.
to look for another solution. Either save up some money for a newer Garmin or go with a TomTom, TomTom Rider, which is really reasonably priced. I just haven't really looked at any reviews on them. The only problem with the TomTom too is the software is not made for a Mac. It's only made for a PC
Hmm.
for your trip planning.
Yeah, I know that Garmin just had some new release, like some new GPS releases, but they charge such a ridiculous amount for the motorcycle ones.
Well, they're insane. The Zumos are, close to $800
Yeah, I have a Zumo 660, and to be honest, the only thing I ever use it for is programming a specific route. I'll get on like Basecamp or whatever the crap they call
yeah, Basecamp.
their desktop software, and I'll use Google Maps and I'll plan out a very specific route and I'll load that into the GPS, and that's the only time I use my GPS. The rest of the time, I take the mount off the bike entirely. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah, Waze seems to work decent. Even the Google Maps app work good. That's the other thing too. The Garmin, like, so let's say that you pick a place, for instance,
hmm
like when I was in Memphis, picking Gainesville, for instance. If you do that on Google or on Apple iMaps maps, it gives you three different choices, three different routes.
yeah,
Garmin doesn't do that. So Garmin, you have to kind of look at one of those different choices you have on one of those maps, pick some intermediate locations that it's
Yep.
going through, and then kind of hit those on the Garmin, which was a complete pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and I don't know if it's partially because I'm using an older Garmin unit, the Street Pilot series, a 2820. Uh, you know, and then having it set up with Bluetooth too, so it would give me turn-by-turn directions. The priority that I had on the Senna, anytime I would touch the screen on the Garmin, it would cut out my music. So I had to go in the settings and turn that sound off on the Garmin unit, so it wouldn't do that, which
Yeah,
was a little annoying.
I don't think that I can turn that sound off on
The
mine.
Zumo.
Yeah. I could be wrong, but I don't think you can do it. The uh my issue that I had while we're kvetching about GPS is um coming from the west, going to Overland Expo. There's like a 12-mile dirt road that goes between Munns Park in Arizona right to Mormon Lake Lodge, basically.
240.
Um, yeah, so you have to ride up Interstate 17, get off at Munns Park, and literally just drive straight. And that road becomes the dirt road, and you end up where you want to go. My GPS would not route me down that road. I don't know why. Um, you could see that the road was there on Basecamp or on the actual GPS screen.
Did you have it set in one of your avoidance settings to avoid off-road?
No, the only thing I have it set to avoid is like tolls or something.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it refused, and even when I tried to pick like an individual waypoint in the middle of that road, it would try to route me back down 17 and around and up the other way to come in from the other side. So I'm not sure what was going on there. I know that you can get it to go over dirt roads if you use, they're called GPS tracks. It's a
Right.
different from a route. For the listeners, if you don't know, a route they use like basically it creates a series of waypoints that are spaced out to make your route. A track is almost like an inch by inch series of waypoints that it converts into, instead of go to this point, go to this point. It's like the GPS is following a specific line drawn in the sand, basically.
Right. And that it even means too, like when it records your track, if you got off and did a couple circles in a parking lot, that records that
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
track. And that's kind of the route that Aaron Sprague, the guy that owns Eurosports at Tampa, Eurosport, that he had set up was a track originally. And I'm kind of glad now. Well, actually, I have mixed feelings, but I wish I would have taken part of it. But 170, that the road we were originally going to go to, down on the southern border of Mexico and or Texas and Mexico, I thought was a continuous roadway that kind of went snaked up the coast of Texas and then got you in, you know, El Paso and then back up like 25. But it turns out that 170 turns into a dirt road. And I was talking to somebody and they said we don't even think that thing connects into El Paso. Now he had a route for that, so obviously they've done it before. But that's when I ended up just taking Central Texas. Really liked it a lot more. The ride home too was interesting because when I left, and we'll talk about the expo in a second. I just want to get the ride out of the way. But
yeah.
when I left you, I went down to Sedona, which was
Hmm.
really pretty. Did some
Yeah, it's
photographs
gorgeous out
there.
there.
But here's the really sad part about that whole ride is there's a section going down into Sedona where there are these switchbacks, and I had the GoPro set up on my helmet where I thought was pointed in a direction that would record all that, and it appears that it might be too low.
Mm,
Like I was getting mostly roadway, which I'm really bummed out about that. And I don't know
that's tricky.
if I knocked the thing when I had it on my helmet, 'cause I thought initially when I had it set up, it was set up right, but it's definitely a learning lesson for the next time. I'm really disappointed about that because there was some killer road and beautiful scenery, and I kept moving my head, you know, keeping my eyes forward, but moving my head so I could get video, all that. I may look for a different solution to mount it. I don't know, but I was just completely bummed out about the fact that a lot of that video might not be usable. But
Yeah.
anyway, after I left Sedona, I stayed in Flagstaff and just was pretty uneventful. Ordered in, and the next morning I left Flagstaff, went to Winslow, Arizona, which was pretty cool because in the middle of town they've got where Route 66 goes through Winslow. They have this, and I got to post these pictures. A big, beautiful Route 66 emblem in the middle of the street at the intersection, and they have the
Oh, that's
corner
cool.
there. There's like a statue standing at the corner with a guitar, a flatbed Ford truck that the city went out and bought and stuck there at the corner.
Huh.
You know the lyrics of "Take It Easy."
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of neat. There was a. I want to do a shout out to Tom, the guy that owns a little gift shop on the corner there. That he gave me some really great routes to take to get into the Indian Navajo reservation. So I left Winslow and I got off the highway, which is where all the other mapping routes told me to take to get up into the Navajo country. And I took a back road that was just absolutely phenomenal, incredible scenery. The only problem was the wind. The wind increased pretty bad the whole way there.
Yeah, the second day for me, or
Yeah.
because I rode, it's a day's ride from here to that part of Arizona, but I have family down in Mesa, and so I'd gone down there.
We need to talk about that
Um,
too, about
yeah,
your trip to Mesa.
yeah. So skipping that part, my ride home the second day, like your ride from Flagstaff, my ride from Mesa, the wind was just incredible.
Yeah, it was.
It was for me it was a headwind the entire time, and I could feel my helmet was vibrating, just
Yeah,
shaking the whole way home.
it was crosswinds, and it was all I could do to concentrate to keep the bike on the road when I would get these like micro blasts. You know, you'd pass like a rock structure and come into a plain area, and it would just hit you, and the whole bike would move to the side of the road, and
Hmm.
it was getting kind of wild. But it was
Yeah.
part of the experience, and it's what made it fun. So anyway, going through there, I'm talking to Lisa on the phone, and I was getting intermediate cell service, but I was surprised how good some of it was in areas when we didn't really have it where we were at Lake Mormon. I'm
Yep.
talking to her and I'm like, I haven't seen another soul in an hour. There's
I
nobody.
had service at Mormon Lake. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I haven't. Thank you, AT&T. But
Yeah. Nobody at AT&T had service. Like
no,
everybody was like, "Oh, I could take credit cards, but I don't have any service."
I have AT&T, right? And you're setting up like hotspots for them so they can charge
Yeah.
people. Anyway, so I'm passing this intersection and there's this woman in the middle of nowhere selling tamales out of the back of her truck. And I tell
Hmm.
Lisa this, and she goes, "Get one, stop and get one. It's probably gonna be the best tamale you've ever had." So I do a 180, I turn around, I go back, I met this woman. Her
One
name
of the
was
worst cases
Darlene.
of shits you've ever had.
No, it was phenomenal. It was really good.
Good,
It
good.
was
I'm glad.
great. $2.50 for a soda. I gave her $5 and had the best chicken tamale I've ever had. Sat and talked with her for a while. Got some history about the Navajo Nation. Left there, went to the Hubble Trading Post. That was really cool. If you're ever in northern New Mexico, before you stop at Four Corners, go to the Hubble and go to Canyon de Chelly. It was absolutely beautiful. And then, made it to Durango that night. We stopped in Four Corners. From Durango, it was kind of on it was a beautiful ride through parts of Colorado down into Santa Fe, New Mexico again. I've been to Santa Fe before. I like it. Uh, I got to do another shout out. Officer
Fan of the
Plummer.
Newsies.
Officer Plummer with Santa Fe PD. Thank you, sir. You are a gentleman. I might get him in trouble, but I'm driving through the plaza in central downtown Santa Fe, and I'm looking for a place to park, and there's nothing there. So I see this motor cop on a Kawasaki Concours, no less.
Yeah, and that guy. If that's the picture you sent me, that dude was
Yeah.
armed up. Like,
Is that not badass or what?
yeah,
He's got an M4 in a holder on the back of his Concours sticking there with, I mean, he was totally rigged up with this thing. It was really cool. Not to mention the fact that his engine guards were completely rubbed down for him leaning really low into curbs, scraping the thing.
nice.
Yeah, he was digging the bike. So I pulled up next to him. I said, "Hey, is there any public parking here?" And he kind of looks at me and he goes, "There's a parking lot over by the church. It's public." And I go, "Yeah, I kind of wanted to keep an eye on it." He gives me one of these, like follow me type thing. So he pulls into this area that says motorcycle parking only from 6 to 10 p.m. During the day, you're not allowed to park there at all. And he goes, "I'm going to write some reports." And he kind of let me hang out there with him. Recommended a place to eat. I said, "Where's a good place to eat?" And he goes, "You see that cart over there on the corner selling fajitas? That's the best food you're going to get in the plaza." It was really good. $5 fajita, overstuffed. Sat there, had my lunch, talked with him. Really, really nice guy. And then headed out of there and got to, I think, Amarillo that night, which I got to tell you, Amarillo's got a unique smell to it.
Does it?
Yeah, like cow shit. Like
Oh.
really strong, and even worse so in the morning. Left Amarillo the next day, stayed in a campground at Lake Eufaula Campground. state park in Oklahoma. That was really nice. Got robbed by raccoons that night. They stole my cheese dip, little bastards. I told Lisa I got robbed, and she's like, "Oh my God, what happened?" I'm like, "Yeah, some little masked bandit took my cheese dip for my Fritos." And then that was it. After there, I left and went to Memphis, and then had a pretty uneventful ride home. But so let's talk about your side trip and what you did on
Yeah.
your side trip.
Well, again, we're kind of like burying the lead that was Overland Expo for us, but at Overland Expo there was a motorcycle dealership called Go AZ Motorcycles. They had a bunch of KTM's and stuff there, and while I was kind of messing around at the show, I was like, hey, do you guys do demo rides? And they said, yeah, we down at our shop, you could demo ride bikes. And I said, do you have a KTM 1190 down there that I could ride? And they're like, yep. So I decided to, instead of going straight home, I went down to Mesa, Arizona, because the dealership was in Scottsdale, and I I've been to Arizona several times, but I've never really paid attention to like the geography of where, say, Scottsdale is in relationship to Phoenix and Mesa and all that other stuff, because I never go to those places. I pretty much go from here to Mesa, visit my family. It's my wife's mom and dad. Um, or from here to like northern Arizona up in Eager to visit some other of my wife's family, like her mom's dad or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, well, so I was talking to my wife. I was like, hey, I'm thinking about coming home, not today, but the next day. I'm gonna go down to this dealership in Scottsdale, and she's like, oh, you should just stay with my parents. I was like, oh, is that it's close? And she's like, yeah, it's only like 30 minutes. Oh, okay, cool. So, after a little bit of, like, in-laws, stay with the in-laws. Do I really want to? Yeah, so I decided to, and it was great. I was dumb for thinking that I should,
Hmm.
get a hotel or whatever. I mean, honestly, at first I just didn't realize how close it was. But so I go up there to the dealership the next day, and um, they're like, "Oh yeah, we've got one of those, but I think it's still on the trailer from the expo. Like I don't even think we've gotten it off the trailer yet." So um, me and one of the salespeople were just kind of walking around talking about random stuff. It turns out this dealership, they sell almost like just about every brand. I don't know if they
Yeah,
had.
they kind of gave me the lowdown on it, and they're pretty packed with different brands.
Yeah, Triumph, BMW, Ducati, KTM, Honda, Ural, Harley, because they own the Harley dealership just around the corner. Um, Probably somebody I'm missing. Uh, but yeah, so lots and lots and lots of bikes. I didn't know it, but as I was talking to the sales guy, the guy that owns Go AZ Motorcycles is the guy that owns GoDaddy. So
Really?
yeah, the internet hosting people, that's the same guy. So he really wanted to create this like destination motorcycle dealership, and I'd say he did a pretty good job. I've got some pictures that I still need to post up of. I went inside the BMW. They have three buildings there. I went inside the BMW building, which also has Triumph and Ducati, uh, and inside was a R9T that was all custom, like basically an R9T cafe racer.
Could you get a ride on that or not?
No, it's the owner's bike, and it's not for sale and not really for touching.
Right.
And they own a custom bike shop also down the street that's like full out like balls to the wall $40,000 custom cafe racer kind of I mean they'll make anything, but they did a cafe racer Bonneville that was in the shop as well, and I took a bunch of pictures of that. And as it was funny because the guy was like, "Oh, you ride a Bonneville, don't you?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "So you're probably like really geeking out over some of this stuff." I was like, "Yeah, I'm probably staring at some things that most people are like just gloss over."
Right.
But I mean the gas cap even um, they had inlaid like a leather piece into the center of the gas cap that had embossed on it the logo for the bike because they kind of came up with this logo for like this like logo paint scheme design for the bike, and they had that embossed into the gas cap as well.
So I'm looking at this place. This is a
Um,
big dealership.
yeah, the place is huge.
Yeah.
Um, went into the back. The guy was like, "Hey, do you want to see a Ducati Superleggera?" Um, there's only like a handful of these bikes in the world.
Right.
They're incredibly expensive. And they had
What are we
two.
talking, like 70?
I'll look it up.
I can't
Um,
believe they actually have one of those.
yeah, it's an 1199 Superleggera or 1199, $65,000.
Yeah, that's what I
Uh,
thought.
yeah, I mean carbon everything. Even the under tail piece is carbon. I got some pictures of that. They it's a crazy looking bike. Anyway, so this whole time they're paging the guy that was up at Expo who's supposed to be getting the bikes off the trailer. They're trying to find him. I was probably there for about an hour and a half before they found the guy. Um, but they have, like I said, they have a huge store, so I was looking at all kinds of stuff, and I was pretty well entertained.
I noticed too that they're Aprilia and Vespa too,
Yes. Um,
so
so
they
he,
could be a Moto Guzzi if they wanted to, because that's from the
yeah.
same family along with them Via Gusta.
hmm so the guy comes out. I can't remember his name because I'm horrible with names, but he came out and um, we recognize each other from the show. We talked a little bit, and he's like, "Yeah, we just got the bike off the trailer. I'll bring it around. You can take a ride on it." And their policy basically was just bring it back when you feel like it. As long as it, don't take it all day, but bring it back.
Yeah, you said bring it back before dark, right?
Yeah, basically.
That's kind of
Um,
cool.
but at this point, I kind of needed to hit the road. So I was like, all right, I'll take it out for like a quick 30-minute ride, get kind of a feel, and then bring it back. So I did that. Rode around, Scottsdale, Arizona, a little bit on the KTM 1190, and it's a fun bike. In all the pictures that I had seen up to now before seeing it in person, it just looked kind of like another adventure bike. It didn't stand out to me one way or the other. But when you get on it, it's very narrow and it's very nimble. Um, it felt honestly, it felt a lot like just a naked standard, kind of a sporty, like a really sporty naked bike.
How how was the wind protection? That's what I wanted to know.
Um, I I think it was pretty decent. I didn't get up. I wasn't like doing 70 for very long. But the windshield that was on it did not. Usually, when I ride on a motorcycle with a stock windshield, the wind breaks right about my helmet height, and so I get a lot of buffeting right around my helmet. And for me, the wind deflected great on the bike. I think it was actually surprisingly good, at least in terms of the windshield. I mean, because when I rode your bike, your little windscreen actually helped quite a bit in terms of keeping the.
Don't make fun of the windscreen.
No, like it really like I'm still gonna make fun of it because it was sitting right in front of my line of sight, but like the mounting bracket was it was like right at my level for me.
That's my aiming device. I look through the little hole in the mounting bracket, and that's my crosshairs. I'm shooting the imaginary missiles and
Yeah, when
rockets.
you're like pretending to blow the car up in front of you for being.
Right, that's the crosshairs.
Yeah.
That thing works great, I'm telling you, and that's completely changed the characteristic. Now, if that windscreen was in the highest position, if you would have lowered it into the lower position, you would have been looking over the top of that thing.
Yeah.
But it really changes the characteristic of the ride. There's no buffeting. I could ride the whole time. I was riding at well over 100 for a couple hours with the visor up, without a problem.
Yeah. The KTM felt pretty much the same way in terms of wind, so it may not need a windscreen for you. I'm not sure.
The
Um,
thing about windscreens are, and I've heard people say, why don't you just get a larger windshield? The idea behind the windscreen, like that one, which is the Wunderlich, or the I can't remember the other.
there's the MRA Vario or whatever it
That's the
is.
one. That's the one from France, I believe. The deal behind these things is they're designed so that you can adjust them to fit your profile, how tall you are. So if you're just going to get a taller windscreen like a Cal Science or one of these, you're stuck with whatever that height is. There's no adjustment unless you're going to take a Dremel tool to it and shave it down. But and the other thing with the windscreen is the fact that it's not connected to that screen, so there is some airflow around it, and you don't get as much pressure as you would on a larger windshield. So I'm super happy with that thing, and I'm a guy that doesn't really like to reinvent the wheel, and I got that on a recommendation from a bunch of other guys, that and the MRI, and it worked out really good. It makes the ride a lot more comfortable. It kind of looks a little bit goofy, but who cares? I don't give a crap. Yeah.
Um, I
Anyway,
also I didn't expect how much electronics that thing had either. The
yeah.
KTM. I mean, it's got the whole, everything's electrically adjustable and all that sort of stuff, traction control, you name it, basically.
No, that's where the Ducati Multistrada is, and the BMW GS is the bigger ones. Are all
Yeah.
electronic suspension control.
The
And
nice
even
thing
the
was
Stelvio has switchable. Um, there's not
ABS.
switchable fuel maps. Yeah, ABS and traction control you can turn
Yeah.
off and on really easy.
Yeah, that was the nice thing about the KTM and your bike. It both have like a really easy ABS on off, traction control on off.
Yeah, yeah. But what'd you think about riding the Stelvio?
I liked it a lot. I eventually I'll probably get a bigger adventure bike like that.
Yeah, it feels heavier though than the KTM, didn't it?
Well, yeah, but the KTM, I would expect the Stelvio to last longer. The KTM's, um, from what I hear and kind of what limited personal experience I have with them, they put they're kind of race bike motor
Right.
esque. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
a whole lot. You get a lot now, but it's gonna burn out. Like I guess they're kind of like a comet or like a meteor. A lot
Well,
of flash,
speaking
but
speaking of that, when I was leaving Memphis, I stayed in Tupelo that night. The bike was running a little hot. I could feel it, more heat than normal coming off the cylinders, and I knew part of it was the weather was changing. When I checked my oil in Tupelo, I was down 1.5 liters,
whoa.
and that bike's 4 liters, and there's no leaks anywhere. It
Wait, your
looked
bike holds 4 liters?
4 liters of oil. Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Sorry,
Yeah,
I
it's a
was.
big, and you got to remember too, it's a
Yeah, it's.
split. So there's actually three different fluids in that bike.
Hmm.
The engine takes 1060, which is a really weird weight. It's hard to
That
find
is
on
a
the
weird
Ducati.
weight.
Yeah, 1060. The what they call the gearbox, which is basically your transmission. The gearbox takes 8590 weight, and then the transmission, which is the final drive, takes 8090 weight.
Hmm.
So you got to buy three different weight fluids when you do a fluid change. They're all independent, separate, closed systems. Drain three things out, change a filter, then fill them all up. But and in the transmission, it's only like a half liter, and then it's 350 mLs in the final drive in the transmission. But uh, I'm down 1.5 liters. That's a lot. It was just barely registering on the end of the stick, and I got kind of worried that there might have been a problem. There's no leaks anywhere, nothing.
Hmm.
Next morning, I went to a dealership in Tupelo that was, I think, Tupelo Power Sports. They were like a Kawasaki Suzuki dealership, and I want to thank Dave, the tech there. I ended up putting in 1.5 liters of. They had some 1050 there, so I checked again. There's no leaks anywhere, and some of the guys from the Stelvio thread on ADV said it's maybe that it was underfilled the last time you went to the dealer, because the last time I went to the dealer was when they fixed the leaky drain plug. They put a helicoil in. Maybe they didn't fill it all the way, and maybe that time spent running at those really high speeds tended to burn off a little bit of it, because typically that bike never burns any oil.
Yeah.
I checked the breather. There's an overflow tube in the breather that goes to the airbox. That was empty, so there was nothing in there. Well, when I pulled the oil today and pulled the drain plug and looked at the drain plug, the magnet was pretty much clean. So I'm glad. I'm thinking, maybe I did some damage to the motor. Well, there's nothing, and the
Yeah.
oil didn't smell burnt, maybe because I added 1.5 liters, but those motors are tough. They're built really well, and they
Yeah, and
truly are a
they're not
tractor.
working too hard. That V twin isn't really overstressed in the Guzzi.
No, at 100 miles an hour, I think I was probably turning, 52, 5,300 RPMs. And
Yeah.
that's it. You know,
At 100 miles an hour on the Bonnie, I'm probably doing 65, 7.
not much more. You know, those are
No.
low revving motors, which is probably good for the
I don't
longevity of the motor anyway.
I don't remember what's your red line at, do you know?
Like 8,000, but I've never.
Yeah.
The light will start to flicker, which I can set, by the way, which is
Mm.
kind of cool. It'll start to flicker around 7,000,
Okay.
but only a few times do I get it up there just to run the motor a little bit. But typically, I'll shift if I'm really going quick, I'll shift at like 5 or 6,000 RPMs.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I should have told you this before you took it out. That particular motor and that transmission, you know how motorcycle transmissions work differently than a car, so they want to be spinning when the shifting's done.
Mhm.
But if you just slightly engage the clutch on that, don't even halfway engage it, a quarter engagement on there,
Yeah.
that transmission is buttery smooth. There's no
Hmm.
clunking, anything like that.
Yeah, it felt really good.
Yeah, it, I was really happy. So listen, since we've been like rat holing as we usually do, let's actually talk about what we saw at the expo and what we did
Yeah.
and
Lots
where
of
we camped.
lots of stuff. In the moto ghetto, of course.
The motorcycle ghetto, yeah, which was the first night Crash and I were there. I can remember going to sleep and thinking how beautiful the sky looked and how deep the star field was. Well, about 2 o'clock in the morning, unbeknownst to me, it wasn't that it was 2 o'clock. I got up and
Mhm.
started getting dressed
Yeah.
because it looked like somebody turned the sun on, right?
Yeah, I
And
thought somebody had a floodlight or something.
it was the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean I've been in the middle of the ocean with, hundreds of miles away from any other light source but the ship that I'm on. And I don't think I've ever seen the moon that bright.
that was unbelievable. Everybody kind of made the same comment, like we thought someone turned a light on. We're looking around in our tent and everything. The tent lit up on the inside.
Mhm.
And I started to try to, make something to drink and didn't have any coffee. So, like an idiot, I put some fiber supplement into a glass of hot water and made instant goo, which wasn't drinkable. But so where we were camped was kind of like an area near the arena, and then we were kind of around from where all the motorcycle vendors were, and we saw some really interesting stuff, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, first day, obviously, you and I had been kind of joking that I'd be the only Bonneville there, and the very first, everybody's getting registered or whatever, and this Bonneville rides by, and we're like, hey, wait, there's another one
There's
of
a lot
them.
of it, yeah.
Um, Turned out there was some other interesting bikes there. There was a guy on a Triumph Thunderbird, the older one, the triple, not the new cruiser. Um,
Yeah, he actually posted something on our Facebook page.
oh, cool.
I'll find it in a second. He
Um,
said a little hi to us, but yeah, that was kind of neat.
yeah, there was a Harley XR 1200. Definitely. So yeah, obviously there was a slew of BMW GSs.
It was a GS Love Fest. And when
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be the only Stelvio out there, I wasn't. There was
Yeah.
a 2009, which was kind of cool, and the guy had been there before. And then there was another guy that sent me a message that he was on a GS there, but he had taken a Stelvio the year before. Uh, it was a cool vibe too. There was a lot of bikes that were kitted out pretty neat. A lot of dual sports too. We saw KLRs and
Yeah.
smaller dual sports that were trailered in. The first day we were there, the guys that were camping near us, and one of the guys that was camping with us, Mark, did a ride out to um, the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, that was kind of fraught with disaster, it seemed like.
Yeah, they had one guy get a concussion. They had one guy break his subframe on his KTM that they had to strap back together with straps. A guy that I met there, Franco, probably tore his meniscus, trying to keep his bike upright. And there was another guy that I met in Sedona that walked up to me. We started talking, and he was the guy that had his windshield smashed on his GS. He flipped his GS.
Yeah.
So, and it was funny too because he goes, they kind of rated that thing as being for beginners, which I don't know how beginner it was, but
Yeah, it sounded pretty gnarly.
yeah. So they, Rawhide Adventures was there, and they were doing some classes, and they did some rides, and they also kind of kept us entertained every night till about 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, whether you wanted to be entertained or not.
Right. With parties, one night was disco night. I mean, we actually saw like a mirror ball going and lights in the sky and everything, and they were having a great time. But
Yeah.
it was,
I had earplugs the whole time, so like I could barely hear the thump of the bass, but
yeah, no, I didn't. But I could hear people talking all night, like from all the way over there, which was pretty wild. But you know what? They were having a good time, and that's what being on vacation's about. So
yeah.
it was it was cool for them. So
Um so yeah, the Bonneville rider, it turned out, if you guys have listened to our our kind of interview episode, the Bonneville was ridden by a young lady named Danelle Lynn. Um, she was kind of over in the. They had one tent that had like the book people, if you want, for lack of any better thing they had in common. And her bike was sitting over by her little table, and she's gonna do a 50-state trip this year. She's gonna start in September and go from Arizona to California, and then all the other 40. Well, I guess I guess not quite 50 states because is she really going to Hawaii and Alaska?
I don't think she is. I think she's just doing the lower 48, as you would say.
Yeah, maybe.
But
I'll have to
you
ask
never
her.
know. Maybe she is. I mean, that would be really cool if she could do fit Alaska and maybe have the bike sent over or rent a bike in Hawaii. I didn't hear any plans about that, but
Her business card definitely says one woman, one bike, 1 year, all 50 states and Canada. So maybe she is riding up to Alaska and then going to Hawaii.
we're gonna have to reach out to her to get clarification on that. But
Yeah.
that was really interesting, and she had the other Bonnie.
Yeah. You can find her stuff over at the number 2, blacktop.com. Um, but yeah, so she's a writer. She does some stuff like that. She's a also a um, like a couture designer, fashion designer. So
What does that mean?
like fancy shit.
Okay, so the
Uh,
stuff I don't wear, right?
yeah, me neither.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so that was pretty cool. Ted Simon was there. I was pretty excited about that
So was I. I just didn't
because
act like it. You did, like you did. So
yeah. Well, I read his book when I was like 15.
right. I just read
So
it recently, but
like I was
listen. That book. Did you order one? Because I
I did.
forgot. Now I got to get it off his site.
Yes, I did. I did forget to go by on Sunday and see if he had one because he said he. So I guess to explain, he has his book there. It's all the photos that were taken of his original trip back in the 70s, and they digitally enhanced them to make them able to be printed, and they came out really well. And so it's basically the original book over again, but in pictures, with little write-ups here and there.
Yeah.
And he
When
was
Ted. The funny
good.
thing is when Ted says that he's not a photographer, he is. True. I mean, the photos in the book, the composition were, photojournalistic quality. They were wonderful. It's just that I guess at the time and his focusing and exposure wasn't good, and that was the problems. But don't think that you're getting a book that's got crappy photographs in it. The photographs are phenomenal.
Yeah, they are really good photographs.
I was talking to Paul Smith, one of the contributors for ADV Moto magazine, and he was saying it took them 2 years to get. They did a lot of work to get those photos ready to go. But that's to me that book is a great companion to Jupiter's Travels because it really tells a different story of the same trip.
Hmm.
I'm kind of looking forward to getting it. Me having a photographic background, I really like imagery a lot.
Yeah,
Can appreciate it. So that was cool meeting him for me
yeah,
too.
definitely.
I felt the same way you did because he's really truly a person that I kind of aspired to be able to do a trip like he did. There was a lot of people there that have done a lot of trips, and our friend Christy has done a trip, but
Yeah,
Ted's just a guy that did it back when there wasn't really the technology that existed, and there was people that did it before him, lots of people, but
yeah, and he's quick to mention them as well. That there were
yeah,
he was certainly not the first.
right. And then what else did we got some other really interesting interviews. We talked to a couple of charities that
Yeah, Tiny Bikes Big Change is one of them. They're riding, and when I say tiny bikes, I mean like sub 150 cc bikes. They're going to ride um, across the state of Arizona, which isn't that far if you can go 70 miles an hour, but when the best you can hope for is 30, it takes a couple days.
yeah. Yeah, that was interesting. That's blood for water, right?
Yeah, the blood water mission. So
Yeah, blood
basically,
water.
it's yeah, it's like it's a clean water slash AIDS work charity over in Africa.
And we
Um,
had a chance to sit down and speak to Ron Grace
yeah,
with,
Ron's a pretty cool dude.
yeah, really nice guy, lost for a reason, and they help the people in the Navajo Nation by purchasing things for the children there, sports equipment, and they built some playgrounds. And interestingly enough, when I got home, everyone that I work with and a lot of the firefighters in general on Facebook were doing this 24-hour cold water firefighter challenge. So I got called out on it, and I did mine. And if you're friends with me on Facebook, take a look at my video. I'm not going to tell you about it, but my charity was Lost for a Reason. And funny enough, two guys that I work with that I called out didn't do the challenge and paid Ron $100 each. And so
Nice.
he had sent me a nice email saying that that was going to be able to pay for some of the kids to go to for entry fees, I guess like a science fair or a festival or something. So I was really glad to see that because I know for him, a little bit of money goes a long way for what
Yeah,
they
yeah,
do.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And give another quick example of some of the stuff they've done. I don't remember exactly where in the Navajo like reservation they did this, but it was like a like a center where women would come to talk to like a social worker that were dealing with abuse. Um, and they bring their kids. Well, their kids didn't have anywhere to play, so they just kind of like running around the center or whatever. So they built them a playground there at the center so that the kids have a place to play, so mom can get some peace and quiet and can actually like talk.
Plus, they didn't have to hear it. You know, they didn't have to be witness to what was going on. They didn't have to sit in the
Exactly.
interview room with mom, which I
Yeah.
thought was great. Ron's a really good guy, and if you guys have a chance, we'll put links to that. But check out lostforareason.org. Um, it's a worthwhile charity, even if you're gonna. And they've got some really cool stickers for your bike too. So you know when you send them some money, they give you something in return, a shirt or a sticker or whatever.
Yeah. Most of the stickers are reflective, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
I got one that's got the logo and a British flag to go on the Bonneville.
yeah. Mine was a. I can't remember now. Did I get the Florida state flag or I think I did. They didn't have an Italian flag, so I got the Florida state flag. But we spent some time also talking to Sean with Moto Skivvies, and we can kind of talk about
Yeah,
how
yeah. We each
that
had
worked
some
out.
experiences with them. Mine's really short, I guess, because I only had a couple hours on. I had like 7 hours on the bike with them. Um, I put them on and they felt good. I'd washed them first, like they had recommended, and I put them on, and you and I both mentioned they felt a little low in the back,
Hmm.
and we've already talked to Sean, and that's already been fixed in the upcoming production run of the next set. So uh, that's cool. They were already on top of that, but basically it's similar to a bicycle short, but specifically designed with motorcycle riding positions in mind. And I have the sport bike rider ones because my Bonneville leans me forward. And typically when I ride, after a few hours, I can feel at least a small amount of discomfort in my butt. And um, the 8 hours that I spent on Interstate 8 driving home from Mesa, Arizona, I did not once really think about discomfort in the seat at all. I had all of my attention was able to be focused on how much the wind sucked as opposed to how much my seat sucked, which was quite an improvement for me.
I had the same feeling. My seat wasn't as bad because I was running an Airhawk on the way out there. Now, if I don't run an Airhawk on that seat's good for about 2 hours, and that's it. And then it
I
starts
don't
to
have
really
quite as
hurt.
bad of a situation with the seat as you do.
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of it's really subjective too. It's your
Yep.
anatomy and how you're built and how much padding you got. And you know, I got that flat butt, so I think that that's part of a contributing factor. But that being said, on the ride out, where my discomfort was the fact that I was wearing either a set of Sedici, which is one of the
One of
Cycle Gear's
Silverleaf's.
brands.
Yeah.
Yeah, a pair of their like compression pants that are made for like hot weather,
Yeah.
or I was wearing ex officio briefs or yeah, briefs with Under Armour heat gear. And the problem I was having was the package was getting compressed too much, and I was getting
Yeah.
a lot of pain and numbness, really uncomfortable. I mean, I would have to stop and like readjust everything and try to loosen up my pants. And this was all under a set of Olympia X Motos. So one thing that Sean did with the Moto Skivvies, which if you'll notice, like a regular set of cycling shorts, the more expensive ones have more panels in them, and the panels are usually all the same material, and they're kind of cut around your body like this. And like 8-panel cycling shorts are good because they stretch a lot and they move with you. Well, Sean's were actually made up of different materials. So there was the normal nylon besides the pad, and then there was some breathable material in there. And he actually has, for lack of a better term, a junk trunk sewn into the front, a pouch, a pocket for your stuff.
Yeah. So because like if you think of when you put on some like compression shorts, they compress everything.
Hmm.
These shorts are form fitting but not super tight, and they have extra uh,
Space.
space. Yeah, they've been let out in the.
And if you think about it, the reason for that being is in compression shorts, when you're sitting on astride a motorcycle, it's just causing more compression.
Hmm.
These are designed so that when you're sitting with your legs astride the bike and astride the seat, that there's space, there's room for you there. And it worked phenomenally. And the bit of extra padding, now he's got a multi-density pad in there, and I got to say, I know a little bit about cycling shorts because I wear them a lot. I don't cycle to the level of some of the people out there that do triathlons, but I'll do 30 to 60 miles on a ride, and I haven't done the long ride in a long time, but I did a 30 miler recently, and I can tell you that having a quality pair of chamois, a pad, and a short, as opposed to a bargain brand, makes all the difference in the world. And
Yeah.
my cousin, who used to race for Jameis, kind of, you know, got me into that mindset of because I was having a lot of pain in the, you know, your area between
The perineum.
perineum. Yeah, thank you. I was,
If you don't know what that means, look it up.
or the gooch or the taint, but
Yeah, that's what that means, by the way. That's
any
the medical.
pressure you get there, you know, it makes it super raw and super sensitive. And a lot of pro bike racers will use they'll use either a chamois cream or they'll use Desitin. My cousin used Desitin, which is zinc oxide, in that area to reduce moisture and to reduce chafing. But the way Sean's pads are designed, they're designed not just in that area, small in that area, but more under where your bones are making contact onto the seat, and it works really, really well. And listen, price point on them $60, right? They're $59.95, I think.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that's nothing compared to what good cycling shorts are. A good set of cycling shorts with a quality pad like Sean's running is close to $200 or $180 and up. So you're getting a good value there. And the nice thing about it is you if you're traveling like I was, you can wash it out in a hotel sink with a little bit of laundry detergent or Woolite or whatever you have, and then just roll it up in a towel to get most of the moisture out, and then let it. You know, you'll be good to go if it's dry the next day. Um, he's got a bunch of other stuff in the works. They make a really cool hat. That
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Everybody was wearing that hat. He was just like giving those away. I mean, literally, he was giving those away to like anybody that stopped and talked to him.
and well, the neat thing about the hat, and it's a kind of simplistic idea, is the brim has got these seams built into it that allows you to, when you get off your bike or get on your bike, the hat folds up and it'll fold in a pocket. And then when you get off, you just flick it out and put it on, and now you got a nice hat. And there's been some chat on the ADV forum about him offering maybe a boonie type hat like that too. So I know he's got a bunch of other products in the works. So
Yeah.
we'll post note links on there for Moto Skivvies, but you got to check them out. It was a quality product, and the other thing that impressed both of us when we talked to him is how much of his own money he's put into this business.
Yeah. He's really dedicated.
Yeah, quit his job to do this, and they've got a great website. They make a really quality product. One of the things he talked about, which I think we caught that in the interview too, was the band on the shorts. Most bands on shorts are screen printed and they're just done in a continuous roll. So they just cut what they need and they sew it and you've got the name all the way across the band. Well, Sean's bands are sewn into the name Moto Skivvies is sewn into the band and it's centered. Every one of them is perfectly cut and centered directly in the front. So there's a lot that goes into the manufacturing of these.
Yeah, definitely a high attention to detail.
Yeah. So I'm gonna probably end up getting some of the sport bike ones too, just to try with the 10A because that's a bike that I spend less time on, but it gets more uncomfortable quickly. So
Yeah, I just kind of a quick shout out. I was listening to the Pace, or not the Pace, sorry. The Pace is great, totally worth listening to. But on to what I actually wanted to say.
who was the
Um,
pace?
the Cleveland Moto podcast, the they were talking a little bit about rider comfort as well, and I think it was Dustin Elliott was mentioning that he likes to ride in straight up bicycle shorts with the chamois in there, and I mean it's that whole everybody's anatomy is a little bit different, everybody's comfort is different. Um, Maybe that works for him, but I really did like the if you look, listeners, if you're looking at if you're walking around Walmart and you see bicycle shorts, just take a look in there sometime. Basically, the pad inside is similar to the shape of a bike seat, or maybe it flares out in the front as well, so that there's padding on your entire anatomy that would be in contact with the bicycle seat. So your sit bones, your perineum, and then the boys. Uh, these motor skivvies pads are designed the same way, so that the part of you that is in most contact with the seat of your motorcycle has a pad. So your sit bones, and then in the case of the sport bike ones, it's down each thigh quite a bit. The back of your hamstrings a decent amount, so that because you're leaned forward, your hips are forward, your pelvis is angled forward on the bike, so you've got a lot of pressure that's actually in front of your sit bones. Um, and I found that to be a lot more comfortable than a pair of bike shorts.
Yeah. It, and I've tried to wear bike shorts on there, and it's not the same experience as wearing these. Now, the one thing that both Crash and I noticed, the pants being lower in the back, as he already mentioned, they're gonna fix that. Sean kind of felt this was like version 1, but it's not that big of a deal, really. It was more of an
No.
annoyance of anything.
And for
So
me, I only really noticed it once. I put them on, went, oh, they're kind of low in the back. I pulled them up, and then I never touched them
right,
again.
right. Uh, and that you'll see that's why cycling shorts are kind of cut higher in the back for that same reason because it's a function of the pad that does that, but it's not a big deal. I even walked around on them in them when I went to different places, and because I'm used to wearing bike shorts, I didn't even notice that they were on when I was walking around.
Yeah,
So
same here. I was walking around that Go Easy motorcycles for an hour and a half in them and didn't
yeah,
think about it at all.
no, that was cool. And then what else did we also saw a bunch of interesting companies that had like LED lighting and charging and things like that, right?
Yeah, definitely some cool stuff there. I did an interview with some guys, or a guy that was selling some cool little like camp lights. Really, just I highly, if you haven't listened to that episode, just listen to that episode. There's lots of stuff we talk about. But they had a pretty cool little solar charger thing that was, uh, I guess, like a little cube, probably like 4 by 4 by 4 maybe cube. Um, that was an a lithium battery that you could charge with a little two-panel solar panel. That thing would probably have charged my phone up 30 times by the time before it was dead because it had like a regular three-prong house outlet, so you could charge your laptop off of it, all sorts of stuff. Um, Really cool. Uh,
There
just
was
tons of solar
Yeah, there
out
was a
there.
lot of solar stuff there, and I ended up getting a Goal Zero, the
Lucky.
small panel.
That dude sold out quick.
Yeah, there were people that were selling really large solar panels too, where you could probably power like a television. These things were so big, but we're just like scratching the surface of the amount of vendors that were there. We're not even really talking about the classes. We did sit through a couple of the classes, but the vendors were everything you could possibly think of when it came to overland travel, from people that were demoing and selling cooking items to sleeping pads, camping items, tents, and then all the way up to these massive overland trucks that were there,
Hmm.
or boxes for overland trucks. There were three manufacturers of vehicles there: Land Rover, Jeep, and Dodge. And Jeep and Land Rover were doing the experiences, the demos on a very, very technical course. Ural Motorcycles was there doing demos, which Crash and I both had a really cool time learning about riding a hack and doing the demo with those, which was pretty neat.
Yeah, I really want to get my wife in one now because she's always kind of talked smack about them because she thinks they look goofy. But now that I've ridden one, like I thought they were cool enough that I would have bought one without ever having ridden
Yeah.
one if I had the money. I would just buy one right now because
That's the
I
only
think they
thing that
look
kind of
really cool.
gets me about them is like my personal feeling is they're pricey for what you're getting. You
Yeah,
know,
but talking to some other people, they were mentioning, like the price of if you have a bike already and you put a hack on it. Um,
it's going to cost you that anyway.
yeah, it's going to be
Yeah.
that much or more. Like some of the sidecars alone that you can get for some of the bikes are the same price as the entire Ural.
Right.
Um, but I mean, obviously, I'm not going to get one anytime soon. But I'd really like to get the wife in one just to see if I can change her mind about whether or not they're interesting or cool or whatever. Because it just everybody said that the sidecar itself is the most comfortable place to ride on those things, and I had a ton of fun driving it. So
Yeah, me too. I had a lot of fun. Dave, the guy from Ural America, was with us when we did our demos. And was he riding with you too?
he did not ride with me. I rode by myself.
Oh,
So I
that's
had an
cool. So
empty sidecar.
you had a different experience then, because mine was weighted, so it was probably a lot smoother ride. And we were going up that fire road, and man, just hauling butt and jumping over stuff, and he
Yeah.
was yelling, and we were having a great time. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, that's probably going to be the only way I'm ever going to be able to take my grandkids on a motorcycle, knowing
Right, and
what.
that I mean, I was thinking about that just yesterday when I was working on the bike. My kid loves my motorcycle.
Yeah.
Like every time I go out in the garage, he comes out there, he climbs all over it. He's constantly talking about it, and I can't take him for a ride right now. He's 2.5.
Right. That's
But
Abigail too. She walks by and she goes brum brum. She likes
yeah,
it a lot. So
but I mean, I could if I had a sidecar bike, I could put him in the car seat or whatever. I could strap him in real tight, or my wife could sit over there and hold on to him, and we could go around the neighborhood. Like it's not like
yeah.
I'm going to take him out on the street and do 70 with him.
No,
But
I mean even like to go down to the neighbor's house or something, or drive around, like you said, drive around the neighborhood. Where my kids live, it'd be an easy ride down to go get some ice cream or something.
right,
Or
yeah.
down to the beach would be cool. But that was neat, getting actually a chance to look at one of those, the newer ones, close up and have a ride on them, and do the little class that Dave did, which was pretty substantial for just a demo. They taught us a lot about riding a hack. But and then there were some large vendors there, like Twisted Throttle. My friend
Hmm.
Eric Stevens was
Yeah.
there. They were giving out stickers and catalogs, and
And if you were really nice, you could get a shirt mailed to you,
yeah, I
which I'm
wanted to get him to sit down and
quick
do it.
shout out to Jenny who's mailing me a shirt.
Is she really?
Yeah.
Jenny lives in Colorado, and she gets out to a lot of the events, and she rides at KLR everywhere, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
She's a hardcore rider. Um, there was also a dealer there, and I think it was AZ Cycles too that had the climb gear. Were they the same guys? I think so, weren't they?
I don't know. I'm not sure now that you mentioned that.
So I got a chance to actually look at the climbs gear because nobody sells it down here, and then Revit had a tent too as well. And I'm gonna kind of trash Revit a little bit right here because this doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
They deserved it.
Yeah, so Climb's there with a factory rep, not their own tent, but one of their dealers' tents was there with multiple pieces of gear with multiple sizes that you could try on and was for sale,
Yeah.
which made a lot of sense. Revit shows up with a really nice, high quality tent and two pieces of gear out of their line in one size each. So unless you're maybe like Crash's size, I don't even know if it would have fit him, you're not getting to try any of this stuff on, and certainly not going to be able to buy any of it. Now, if I tried on the Climb Overland and liked it, I could have bought it and rode it home,
Hmm.
including, you know, the undergarments and the gloves and everything else had been set up. Revit had nothing there. Now, I can dig the fact that as a manufacturer, they might not have all that, but then have your local dealer there instead of your booth and support them so they can sell gear as well. Just seems to make sense to me. I don't know, you
Yeah,
know.
I agree.
So it was
I was really
disappointing.
surprised, yeah, at how little Revit had there.
Yeah, so here I'm seeing a jacket that I've never seen, the Poseidon, which would be something that I'd be interested in, but I can't try it on because they don't have what but one size medium, I think, and they certainly couldn't sell it to me. So um, it was one of those things that was a little bit disappointing. And everybody else that was there that had stuff had a lot of it, and they were looking to.
I like the looks of that jacket though, the Poseidon.
It's a nice jacket, and they
Mm.
put a lot into it, and there's a lot of technical features in it that are really nice. So I was really liking to try one on, but now they were at AIM and they didn't have any sizes you could try on at AIM either. Another company that was there that displayed some new product was a company called Moscow Moto,
Hmm.
which they're making bags, which are really nice,
Yeah,
well done.
especially if you like that sort of molly webbing tactical backpack style where you can attach, a million things to the outside of it, you'll definitely like these bags.
And Moscow Moto made a nice product, and their bags that they make for. I actually wanted to show my wife these for her Triumph, but the bags that they make for their saddlebags are soft bags, but the mounting system is really cool that they
Yeah.
use, and it's simple and fast to put off and on. And
And it looks really sturdy. There's a whole lot of, I mean, there's a whole lot of surface area where the mount is attaching to its like base plate, basically.
they did a lot of engineering for that. So let's talk about the class that we sat through and your experience with that
Yeah,
after the class.
sure. So Mike Kaiser of Kinderreiter, he also works for Overland Expo and is apparently a large reason why Asheville, North Carolina, was chosen as the place for the East Coast one. But he did a class on like roadside tire repair, where he went over like a couple different styles of patching and plugging of tubeless or tube tires, and then he demoed a piece of equipment called the bead breaker. Um, it's got a funny spelling. It'll be in the show notes. But basically, it's a set of uh, like attachments that you fit tire levers into. You fit three tire irons into, and it makes a mechanism that hooks on your wheel and then allows you to break your bead.
A fulcrum breaker, for lack of a better term, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
creating a fulcrum to put pressure on the bead and allow you to pop it, right?
Yep. So it's that thing, and then he also demoed this little tiny pump called a cycle pump, made by the same company. It's supposed to be ridiculously durable. It's got a 5-year warranty. Uh, so pretty decent looking stuff. And he demoed how it works, and that's I guess what he uses or what he carries when he's going on a trip in the event that he needs it. And after talking with him a little before and then after the class, because he's a friend of the show, and we chatted quite a bit. He was saying that he actually uses his bead breaker at home uh, as well. Like because he has some like professional car mechanic equipment, but he said that he uses his bead breaker on his motorcycle tires at home just because it's so simple. And I bought one. I bought that and a cycle pump and got it home. And you'll see the video up hopefully soon. I've been kind of distracted and haven't gotten a chance to edit it yet. But I shot a video of the first time that I used it, and I can honestly say that I didn't even read the directions. So I'm just going into it from having seen him use it and trying to use it. I was able to get it done. Um, I'm gonna look at the directions though, because there might be something in there that would have uh, made things a little easier had I not just typical man style, just like I don't need these directions and done it. But because when you put it together, it's adjustable, and once I got the adjustments correct for my wheel, it was super simple. The first couple of times I tried it, I'm sitting there like putting all this weight down and grunting and nothing's happening. And once I got the adjustments right, boom, bead popped right off first time.
And for us, just watching him do the demo, when I say he did a demo, he put the bike up, his V-Strom up on the center stand, you know, tied down the center stand to the wheel, went through the whole scenario.
Hmm.
First, he even demoed plugging a couple. He had like 6 screws screwed into his tire.
Yeah, he'd been riding around on a bike that had drywall screws in the tire
Yeah.
all week.
He plugged those using, traditional strings and then the pluggers, and then took the tire completely off the bike, went through the whole process of breaking the bead, pulling that tire completely off the rim, and putting it back on too. So we kind of got to see the whole thing. And if you're gonna, that's one of the things that I think the point you're trying to make is, and that Michael was making, is you buy this thing and it may save you the cost of having tires mounted whenever you get tires. Because when I order tires now, I got to go take them to the local place and they're like $30 to $40. They want to get mount a tire.
Yeah.
So that's going to save if you're going to use it for that. Now that being said, some of these tougher sidewall and tread tires like a Heidenau K60, I've heard guys say they play hell trying to get that thing on a rim.
Yeah, I saw, the guys at the Wheel Nerds linked a video today of a guy using they call it the zip tie method to get the tire back on the rim. Basically, the guy took 6 2-foot long zip ties, like the big fat ones, and evenly spaced them around the tire and cinched them down as tight as he could. And I realized this was a sport bike tire, so probably a lot more flexible than a Heidenau. But it was almost like he just dropped it over the rim and it went on. I mean, it was
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Almost no effort. It was kind of amazing.
I mean, I'm thinking about doing this, is getting the same package that you got, and then because I need a new front tire now, and the rear tire doesn't have much left to go, and I was thinking about putting a Heidenau K76 on the front and a K60 on the rear. But
the only problem I had, like I said, once I got the levers adjusted correctly, it went very smoothly. So you have to break the bead on both sides of the wheel, and then you pry the bead off the wheel, and then you pry the second bead off the same side of the wheel. I had a hard time with that second bead. It was probably just lack of experience. I haven't done it a whole lot, but it was tough. I'm gonna probably edit out a good 30 minutes of me just sweating my ass off in my garage.
How about setting the bead then? How'd that go?
Oh God, that was easy.
Yeah.
Like I used the tire lever and popped it right on the wheel, no problems.
Right.
And then the hardest part there was the cycle pump. So the cycle pump, you can buy it in a kit with this gauge.
Right.
That attaches in line with the tube on the pump. I did the same thing that Michael did, where I left the valve core out so that it would get as much air into the tire as quickly as possible. And so I didn't use the gauge. I just hooked the tube, the hose off the cycle pump right up to the wheel, and it has this little like jaw clamp kind of thing that's supposed to help hold it on. When you've got only one of those in play, so you're not using the gauge. Excuse me, because the gauge has a little clamp on one end, and the pump has a clamp as well. When you're only using the one, it was okay. But at least in my garage, where because the cycle pump jitters around on the floor, the movement made it so that gauge, the nozzle that's hooked onto the Schrader valve, would get kind of cocked, and it would start leaking. So I had to be pretty careful, basically just hold it on almost the whole time. But other than that, it was super easy.
Once you started putting air in there, did you have to soap it up a little bit to get it some,
I completely forgot to put lube on it when I did that.
But it set it anyway, though.
Yeah. The only problem is it killed my motorcycle battery.
Right.
But I knew that was going to happen because my battery's super finicky, but I have a charger, so
I have a compressor in the garage. I mean, I want to try it with the small pump just to make sure I can do it, but I've got a big compressor that 120 psi in the garage.
Yeah, and if I wasn't shooting a video, I would have run the bike. I would have just had the bike running, keeping its own battery charged, and running the pump.
So you endorse that bead breaker?
Yeah, absolutely. It worked really well. The 5-year warranty on the pump, I don't remember the warranty on the bead breaker itself, but it seemed like a decent warranty. It's a local, it's an American company up out of Mount Lake, Terrace in Washington, basically Seattle. Um, so totally worth getting.
Okay, cool. Um, the other thing I was going to say is I sat through a class that Eric Stevens gave on tools, and there's some really neat toolkit ideas that they had. But there's some new kits coming out that Twisted Throttle is going to have that look like they would make a nice addition. It's not your typical, Cruise Tools makes a nice kit, and so
Hmm.
does some of the other companies. But this was a company out of I think Australia or New Zealand that's putting together really nice kits with some high quality tools in them. So when those things actually come out, we'll try to feature that, maybe get a sample and talk about them. But they were kind of neat, and they actually make some really small sizes for a cafe bike that
Oh,
would fit
cool.
like right under your seat in a bump stop maybe, that would have some tools that would keep you back on the road.
Yeah, I've got one of those Cruise Tools kits, and I never carry it with me when I'm riding to and from work just because it's too big.
Yeah,
I have a couple little tools. Like I've got a multi-tool and then a like from Cycle Gear, this little like micro ratchet um,
I've seen those. Those are
that
kind of
I
cool.
that I
Yeah,
keep in my backpack.
and I just bought like a set of Husky shorty stubby tools, to use in a bag on the Stelvio. But on the 10A, only thing I have on there is Moto Guzzi's original toolkit. Moto Guzzi doesn't provide a bad toolkit. It's pretty good, but
Triumph does not provide a toolkit.
at all.
I think you,
You know
you you
what?
probably
Now
heard me
you think
mention
about it, there's
with
not one in the Tiger at all.
yeah, with the Bonneville you get an Allen wrench, and that's it. That's all you get.
There's Now that I think about it, I don't think there's anything in the Tiger because there's no room to put anything anywhere.
Yeah,
I'm
the
gonna have to
speed
go
the
check
speed
that out.
triple I had the only thing the speed triple had was it had a screwdriver and a spanner that was so you could unlock the rear hub because it was single-sided swing arm.
Right.
In order to be able to adjust the chain, you had to put this special spanner in there and unlock the hub. Um, that was it. That's all you got.
All right. So what else did we see that was really interesting there as far as the motorcycle community was concerned? Neither one of us did anything with Rawhide, which next time if I go to the Asheville one, I want to definitely hook up with those guys. We didn't really know what to expect or have time, but
Yeah. Said hi to the Butler Maps guys again. I've talked about them on the show quite a bit.
and they did
They
kind of talk about doing the East Coast of the U.S., so that's going to be coming
Yeah, they are
at some
working.
point.
They're currently working on a Southern Appalachia map right now. So that's coming soon. They did. They have an Arizona map out now.
That's new. That just came out, the back roads. They just did all that, and they have the
Yeah, they have the backcountry discovery route as well as a actual like Arizona road map because the
right,
backcountry discovery routes are all off road.
right.
And so they've got that map as well as the roads in Arizona. Um,
So we
so
had a really good time, and
yeah,
I gotta say that if you're if you can make the trip to Arizona or even certainly the Asheville one, and you like that kind of adventure bikes, or not even that, just overland travel in general. If you're a cafe guy but you own a Jeep, or you aspire to want to take a trip in a truck and like sleep in your truck and camp and all that, this is the place to go.
yeah, I was kind of geeking out more over camper trailers and stuff
Yeah,
like
both
that.
you and I both looked at
Um,
truck-mounted campers because we both have trucks. We both kind of like the idea of taking everything with you and then having a trailer or a
exactly.
bumper trailer for bikes. It was cool. It was really cool. It was probably one of the better events I've ever attended, and especially the value of what you get for what you pay for. There was tons of classes, tons of classes. So
Yeah.
you would have a good time, and maybe I might be at the Asheville one. I don't know. I've been
Yeah,
talking to
if
Michael
they don't,
about it.
the other thing is if you're not looking to just camp out there, if you just want to like come for a day, the day passes. I don't remember the price, but it's really reasonable. I mean, and the day there were a few places I saw signs that said like badges only, but I never saw anybody checking for badges, and I didn't
Right.
have my badge like visible all the
They
time.
were looking for the sticker on our bike though. Whenever we were rolling into that one area
Yeah, that's
with
true.
the Europe, they kept looking for. We had like a little smiley face sticker. Oh, speaking of that, one of my mirrors
You
self disintegrated.
you and I both had mirror issues.
Yeah. So those are going to get swapped out for the Aprilia mirrors, and I'm going to relocate the turn signals. But
Yeah, I already did change my mirrors just the other day,
did
yesterday.
you? Yeah, I haven't done it yet. I gotta send a picture over to the dealer and tell them it's a warranty issue.
Yeah.
But
You had one the glass vibrate out, and then I had one that was starting to do that, and my right side kept folding in at speed,
yeah, it
and then my
scared the
tack
crap
needle
out of me when
broke.
I just yeah,
Stupid
dude.
tachometer needle. I was just riding along. I'm on the interstate, and I look down, and all of a sudden the the last probably 60% of my tachometer needle is just bouncing around in the bottom of my tachometer. So I'm working on getting that fixed. I got a gauge bracket from Dime City Cycles. Quick shout out to those guys. They've got I swear, like every time I turn around, they've got new products for the Bonneville line that are the same price or better price than the similar products from other popular Triumph Bonneville cafe bike manufacturers. Not going to name any names, but they're always cooking up something cool over there. And like I said, I got a gauge bracket from them so that I can get rid of my tachometer altogether. And then I promptly broke all the LEDs that I bought for the idiot lights, so I bought some more last night. And once
You
they
want
get
to
here,
talk
I'll
about
redo them.
our some of the other stuff that we did at the Patreon page?
Yes, I do. I was actually, while you were talking, I was working on trying to get that straightened out. And now we can actually say that if you would like to support our show financially, that would be great. Um, we shot a little video together over at Overland Expo, and you can find that video and a explanation of how you can help us out over at patreon.com/Cafe Racer Podcast. Patreon is Patreon. Um, you can find how to support us. We've got some milestone goals in there as well as some supporter or some sponsor rewards. Basically, we're going to start releasing some extra content based on the reward levels, as well as releasing out certain content early to the people that support us, so that you'll get the first look at videos or interviews and stuff like that before it goes out live to everyone else. There's more stuff in the works, and if you have any suggestions, like hey, you guys should offer this at this level or whatever, if there's a reward that you guys think we should offer, um, that's within reason, when we will try to incorporate it. Um, Again, like I said, it's patreon.com/Cafe Racer Podcast, and then if you just go to patreon.com and search for Crash, um, it's the bottom one. Just it says Crash is creating podcast. You'll see a picture of my Bonneville and me kind of in the picture. It's that same link right there. We'll take you to the page.
Yeah, this will be a way for us to allow us to have more content too. That
Yeah.
we could the possibility of us going to more events like we went to and doing more videos, shooting more photographs, and having more things for you guys. So that's really what we want to do, is be able to provide a better experience for the people who listen to and watch the show.
Yeah, I mean, this thing is not just going to be lining me and Steve's pockets with cash.
No, it's going to go back into the show.
Yeah, it's all going back to the show. A great example is, the Overland Expo. If you do the full experience thing, is a couple $100, and fortunately they gave us media credentials, so we didn't have to actually pay to go. But stuff like some of the stuff that we'd like to be able to go to, we can't necessarily get in free or whatever.
Right.
And so it would help us to be able to go to some of the things that we'd like to be able to talk about with you guys,
Not
as
to
well
mention
as
travel expenses too.
yeah, travel expenses and paying our hosting fees. I mean, just putting out the show isn't free for us. And if you find that you get some value out of the show, we'd really appreciate it if you'd give some of that value back. $1 a month, it's 50 cents a show, is kind of what we're shooting for. If you want to give more, we're certainly not going to stop you, but it's $12 a year basically, and it would go a long way.
And, certainly, just the costs of keeping the show going and the webpage going, we pay out of pocket, so it would
Yeah.
help.
So yeah, like
Okay.
I said, we've got some cool rewards, ideas for cool rewards, and if anybody thinks of any other rewards or cool stuff to do, then let us know. There's plenty of other ways to support the show. You can like us on Facebook. You can engage with us on Facebook and Twitter. Like if you hear about something, let us know, or if you think we did something stupid, let us know. I mean, we're always open for feedback.
Yeah, we're pretty accessible, both of us. We're just regular guys. So,
Yeah.
if you need to really talk to us about something, you got some really cool ideas, shoot me an email, and then we might even talk on the phone. I mean, I was talking to one of the listeners today who's going to Americade, so it's we're pretty accessible for the most part. And I think people saw that when they got to meet us at Overland Expo. There was a few people that thought that they had listened to the show in the past, and the funny thing was, is I met some people on the road that said they listened to it, and then I get a shout out to Chris Buchanan, another guy that I met that was like all excited about meeting me and listening to the show while he's driving around in his truck, and we put a link to his company on our Facebook page. They do
Yeah.
fabrication. Another thing I wanted to quickly wrap up real quick was Paul Pellin's MS 5000 ride for multiple sclerosis. So I know that you guys know I participated in that. I got a really late start, but I didn't do too bad. Out of 67 riders, I was number 26.
Not bad.
And yeah, I did a total between miles and points of 6,210. So I had 3,210 miles, raised $300, which equates to 3,000 miles. And, there was the top finisher, though, and that was a guy by the name of John Cooper who did 10,379 miles in 50 days and raised
Wow.
$5,800, which is great. And then friend of the show, Quentin Lewis, did 3,127 miles, 3,127, raised $1,101.
Nice.
Yeah, so they raised a little over $32,000 for multiple sclerosis with this event, and if Paul does it again next year, I'll participate again next year, and hopefully more of the listeners will participate. Maybe we'll have a little bit of show competition, but it was a lot of fun. And the event kind of stopped midway through my trip, so I didn't get to log all the miles that I had, but
Mhm.
still, it was a great time, and I look forward to doing it again. Thanks a lot, Paul.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's going to pretty much wrap us up.
Yeah, yep.
You can find us in all the usual places. Facebook.com/Cafe Racer Podcast, at Cafe Racer Pod on Twitter, Patreon.com/Cafe Racer Podcast now. We have a YouTube account, and it's, do you remember it? Do you remember the link?
Yeah, it's YouTube Cafe Racer Podcast. So
Oh,
if you search Cafe Racer Podcast on YouTube, we're on there. I'm gonna post some permanent links. It's on our webpage. If you go to caferacerpodcast.com, there's links to all of our social media. We have an Instagram account too.
yeah, I always
Which
forget about that.
I try to keep most of that.
You like to
A lot of
take a
this.
lot of pictures, which is good, because I forget to
Yeah,
take a lot of pictures. Or in the case of Overland Expo, my phone was broken.
yeah. Chris kept me up one night, pounding on his phone.
I was.
I'm like, who's that pounding coming from? And it was him trying to get his phone to work. So I guess he thinks pounding a rock on his phone makes it work better, but
It did for a brief period of time.
for like a day. Hey,
There's like a point of diminishing returns, I guess.
what'd you think of my campmate in Oklahoma,
The
the tarantula?
oh yeah, I saw that. Okay. For some reason, seeing tarantulas doesn't creep me out so much. I don't know. I think they're because they're big and goofy and
They
fuzzy.
look like a mouse with multiple legs, kind of. Like I picked this guy up, and he kind of like
Yeah.
walked on my hand a little bit. He was okay. He was cool.
I don't think I would have picked him up, but just so everybody knows, I freaking hate spiders.
Yeah, that's
Um,
why I sent you that picture.
but yeah, for some reason they don't creep me out as much because they're fat and fuzzy.
I thought it was a
Um,
frog falling out of my tent, and
really.
I'm like, Jesus, that's a spider.
Um, but yeah, the some of the other ones, like I don't know if you're familiar with the huntsman spider.
Mm-mm.
They have they're like long legs and like a skinny body, but they get quite big. Um, those are particularly terrifying, I think.
Yeah, here in Florida we got brown recluses, which will do a lot of damage if you get bit by them. But
Yes.
everyone that I've known that has had owned tarantulas, they handle them, pick them up like
Yeah.
pets. So I figured,
Yep.
how bad? And he didn't seem to be in a defensive posture at all. He kind of seemed kind of friendly, so yeah, I
Yeah.
picked him up. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
So we'll catch you guys again, hopefully,
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show.
and go out and take a ride the rest
Yeah.
of the
Get
day.
out there. Right. Go. Do it.